My husband and I had planned a big 10-day trip to Disney World at the end of March, and obviously plans changed, but part of that trip involved the two of us going to the Disney Villains after our party. And if you know anything about that party, you know that costumes are encouraged for adults, which normally is a no-go on Disney property. But since we normally don't get to dress up and we were able to for that party, we were pretty excited. So we started making plans for us both to dress up as Maleficent. I was going to be like the humanoid fairy version of Maleficent, and my husband was going to be the dragon version. So of course, being the crazy artsy DIYer that I am, I decided to make those costumes. And I was videoing the entire process, and I made one video on how I made my horns because I was using that same basic concept for both my costume and his, and that video will be linked down below. Then I was going to make a separate video that involved how I made my husband's hat and hoodie for his dragon costume. And that was all planned and filmed when the Disney closure happened. So at first I was just going to let that video slide and not deal with it because it didn't seem completely applicable anymore since we weren't going to the party. But then I decided, you know what, that's probably useful information for the future if anyone is wanting to make a dragon costume for Halloween or something, and we'll hopefully get to go to that party at some point anyway, so I decided to go ahead and go through that footage. And that's when I also realized that between the hat and the hoodie, there's a lot of footage and a lot of information, so I've decided to split that into two videos because I also feel like some people might want to just do the hat, some people might want to just do the hoodie, maybe not everybody is going to do both of those, or they might do alterations to one or the other that make them not work together. Whatever reasons, I've decided to split those up into two videos. So this video is for how I made this Maleficent hat. I think it turned out a lot of fun. My husband was even pretty excited about it. It's got some really great details, like the little teeth that are really fun and I think add to the whole evil dragon theme. And I also really love that the eyes glow in the dark. They glow a nice bright green, which is very on point for Maleficent. So here's how I made this Maleficent dragon hat for the Disney Villains after our party that we didn't get to attend.
For this project, I used a plain black baseball cap, clear shipping tape, but whatever wide tape you have will work, aluminum foil, and some fillable plastic Easter eggs. Then some black fabric to cover your horns. I used a stretchy black vinyl, and a hot glue gun and some extra glue sticks. I already have a video for how I made my Maleficent horn headband. That's really good for getting these multi-directional horns, so be sure to check out that video. I pretty much made these horns exactly the same, except of course these are going to be sitting flat on the side of a baseball hat. But it's pretty much the exact same process, so the actual horn construction part I'm not really going to go over in this video. You'll want to check that out down in the description box below. For the TLDR, I basically tape a bunch of halves of the plastic eggshells together, sort of segmented and moving forwards and backwards and front and back, etc., to get that multi-dimensional curve. Then when I get towards the top of the horn and the eggshells are too wide, I switch to some crumpled up aluminum foil. There's more details and tips and such in the other video that goes into much more detail, but that's basically how I make these horn forms. Then I just cover them in the black fabric, which again, I go into more detail in the other video. One of the great things about these horns is that they're all pretty easy to find materials and everything's pretty cheap. They might not be the most high-end horns that you're going to find on the market, but they're cheap, quick, and easy for just about anybody to make. It does take a little bit of patience, especially making the left and right horns match, but it's not really hard, just a little bit time-consuming. Then, once you have both horns made, it's time to actually attach them to the cap. The good thing about a baseball cap is there's lots of sort of visual landmarks that you can use to place and match up your horn from left to right. For me, I decided to use the grommet on one of the side panels as sort of the center of my horn. So I went ahead and I cut that grommet out. And then, sort of like you're trimming out a curved seam allowance or cutting little wheel spokes outwards from your little hole to make little tabs of fabric, which you're then going to stick up inside the horn with glue in the different tabs to stick the fabric to the inside of the horns. It's a little bit messy because no matter what, one way or another, you're going to be working blind. So partly to clean things up visually and partly for extra stability, I cut a strip of black scrap fabric. Then I glued that inside, making sure to go past the fabric tabs from the cap and onto the inside of the eggshell, and then down past all of those tabs towards the solid part of the hat that I hadn't cut. And I just glued that all the way around the entire inside of the horn. And that gives you a basic hat with 2 horns. You could totally stop here if you wanted and just have a plain black hat with horns. But of course, I have to go the extra mile. So I put some white craft foam underneath the bill of the hat, traced the edge of the bill, and then drew in some teeth shapes. Then above the shapes of the teeth, I added sort of a seam allowance, a little bit of extra foam, and cut out that shape. That will give me some great little teeth hanging down from the bill of the hat. Then I traced that piece onto another scrap of white foam and cut out a second piece. Then in the space above the teeth on that sort of seam allowance that I made, I ran some glue and made sure that I used plenty of it, and I used that area to glue it to the bottom of the bill. Then repeat on the other side. Now you have a dragon hat with horns and teeth, but of course I want eyes. So I cut some eye shapes out of a really fun glow-in-the-dark heat transfer vinyl. I played around until I was happy with the position for the eyes. Then I started ironing them onto the hat, but that three-dimensional shape was not easy to iron. So I rolled a towel up inside of the hat to give me a more solid base to work with, and that worked very, very well. So the hat looks like a really awesome dragon when you've got plenty of light, but then as the lights dim, the eyes glow a bright green, and it is loads of fun.
Turned out pretty awesome. It was pretty simple if you're at all crafty. If you're not super crafty, it's not too bad at all, I don't think. It's easy to find materials, nothing crazy expensive, and there's definitely parts that you could leave out or simplify if you're at all nervous about them, but overall I think it was pretty simple and I'm very happy with how this turned out. Even though I don't know if and when we'll ever get to actually wear these costumes to the parks, I hope you found this helpful and inspiring for any of your projects. If you did, please like down below and remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I upload a new video every Monday and Thursday. Have a beautiful day and I'll see you next time.